foremost creates an unlimited sense of possibilities, because you approach everything from a childlike manner where anything and everything is possible, where anything and everything is achievable, where disease doesn't exist, where you feel that you are absolutely and utterly immortal. Yeah? I wish as a world we could have some innocence again. Because with innocence also comes the fact that you see everybody as the same. Issues of race, of class, of status, of power, all of that is nullified. And you almost create a cohesion that is based on purity. And within purity, you find the authenticness of the Ubuntu. And within that, you find that whatever you do is not only to the benefit of yourself, but to society at large. You love openly. You share without thought. You give without expectation. And you ultimately serve selflessly. And it's that kind of innocence that I wish we could have. Because with that kind of innocence, it informs and influences everything that happens in society. It takes away issues of greed, it takes away issues of pride, and it just takes away issues of heartlessness, and pain doesn't become a reality of innocence. And so if I could create that magical world, I would create a world of innocence.
There's a lot of these narratives that keep being perpetuated in medias, in certain policies, where they're saying that women, youth, persons with disability, military veterans all need to be included in certain positions and certain roles. So it's like the new BEE, right? What would you say is the current attitude of women in business? So as a woman, as an institutionally recognized woman, right? What is your attitude towards the narrative of this inclusion?
Firstly, I do support the narrative that there certainly needs to be inclusion. And over and above inclusion, there certainly needs to be equality. I, however, do feel uncomfortable when it's being done for the wrong reasons. I, as a woman, for example, I do not want to be included into mainstream economy as a manner of satisfying some kind of tick box exercise. I want to earn my space in mainstream economy. And I want to earn my space in mainstream economy by the value that I bring. So if anybody includes me into mainstream economy because I'm a woman, it will certainly be an insult. I further do not want to be patronized because I'm a woman. I always want to be looked at in terms of what I bring to the table. I look forward to a conversation where such kind of topics won't be necessary anymore because you will automatically earn your space. Now, in terms of then extending it and even going as far as the inclusion of people with disability. And I always say that it's, in actual fact, it's not even disabled, it's just differently able. And I base it on the same premise. Do not come and feel sorry for me. Do not do it because you have to do it. Do not also do it because it's the right thing to do, but recognize my economic potential in contributing towards the transformation and the inclusion of society at large. So, when you then talk about, and this is something that comes up all the time, and fortunately, a person is also placed in a position where we are beginning to inform an action plan that will ensure that at least in our lifetime, just this generation, that we set in place a master plan that will begin to direct women inclusion and women with disability within the mainstream of procurement. And what we're actually doing is supported by the President. We will be launching on the 6th of October what will be called the Women's Economic Assembly.
As government, we are working to give effect to our decision to direct at least 40% of public procurement to women-led and women-owned businesses. This is important if we seek to reduce poverty and inequality. This requires not simply a change to procurement policies. It also requires that we prepare women-owned businesses to access these opportunities. Therefore, working with the private sector, state entities, and development partners, we have started with the training process of women entrepreneurs in financial literacy, accessing markets, and access to finance as well. As several speakers have indicated, the economic empowerment of women is being supported across government, from small-scale farmers to cooperatives, from human settlements to tourism and to mining.
Taking into account broadly accepted social and religious norms, countries aiming to raise female labor force participation should reform their laws in order to create equal opportunities for men and women. For example, countries like Namibia, Peru, and Kenya have already done so and have already seen the results. For example, Peru changed 2 of their laws in 1990s to be more gender equal, and as a result, labor force participation from females increased by 15%.
Being empowered as a woman doesn't generally mean that you need to take on jobs that are generally done by men to show men that you can do what they can do and do it better, firstly. Secondly, I want to say that as much as we look at venturing into male-dominated industries, let's just take a slight step back. Now, let's look at the female industries, or typically female industries. So you'll hear a narrative where people say women generally control the buying decisions in households, correct? Okay. Women generally are the ones who know certain things best, yeah? Is an assumption. So we cook, yeah? We take care of our children. So we are the ones who buy the nappies, who buy everything that's linked to children. We generally influence the decision around where the kids go for schooling, yeah, and all those women activities. Now then, you reflect back and you ask yourself, we influence the decision, the buying decision. Do we own the decision? And when I talk owning, I talk value chain. Now, this is when I think about this women inclusion issue. And I think sometimes before we start fighting for inclusion in male-dominated industries, let's own female industries. Now, does it make sense that there is not many females in this country that own spice companies? Yet we are the ones that cook. So are we not the best ones to know which spices are the best?
To create awareness around gender bias issues such as those impacting on female consumers. Women's buying power is driving shopping in South Africa, with about 60% of women being the primary purchasers in their household. However, despite being the world's greatest influencers in the retail shopping space, women are still facing gender bias issues like your pink tax, gender wage gap, as well as some greater unemployment than their male counterparts. We talk.
Let's look at nappies. Let's look at sanitary pads. Let's look at, even in terms of wellness and beauty in this country, you look at your SAWBC. Your SAWBC is male-owned. Yeah? Okay? You look at the extensions that we use. We don't have one woman in this country who manufactures hair. In actual fact, we don't have a company in this country that manufactures hair. We import all our beads. So what I'm saying is that, as much as I'm not saying that women should not pursue male-dominated industries, but I'm also saying, as women, let us just take also one step back and let us begin to truly inform and take full ownership of our own industries.
Number 1, when more women are hired, countries grow faster.
There is ample evidence by now that shows when women participate in greater numbers in the economy, there can be significant macroeconomic gains. For example, our research shows that when women participate at the same rate as men, gains in the US could be about 5% of GDP, in Japan up to 9% of GDP, in the United Arab Emirates up to 12% of GDP, and up to as much as 34% in a country like Egypt. In the IMF, besides doing research on these broader issues across countries, we are now beginning to build some of this into our policy advice to individual countries.
It is always expected from leaders to say that they come from a history or background that informed like a certain dream or something that they were working towards. And I've discovered that in my life has been very organic. Yeah, organic in the sense that there was always some fundamentals that guided where and how I was directed in life. One of the things was the fact that I always wanted to do something where I make a difference in society at large. I make a difference in terms of the impact that I have in people's lives, but I also challenge certain norms. Yeah. I've also known that I'll always be involved in something. You know, I wasn't always clear on what it would be, but always something that would really be an expression of God's will for our lives. And so I'm going to disappoint you in the sense that I've never really aspired for any type of position or material affirmation or sense of achievement, but it's always just been around what difference I can make and how I can express love in this world.
Each one of us have got different pulpits that God has given us, and this, I believe, is one of my pulpits.
know, when you grow up in an environment where you are of mixed origin, and you grow up also in an era where the aspiration of being white is the one that is set as the norm. I think there was a sense of just discomfort, because when I looked in the mirror, I could see that I'm definitely not white. So why would I be aspiring for anything other than what and who I am? Which then created the curiosity around beginning to really explore what being African means and what is the possibilities in being African. Also understanding that I grew up at a time when African history was not part of our curriculum. I grew up at a time where we were taught that people like Jan van Riebeeck came and basically changed the narrative of South Africa and the trajectory thereof. We were not taught about Nelson Mandela or all the other freedom fighters that were there. So for me, there was a curiosity, because even with the media and the television programs that were there, you know, Cleopatra was one of the things that really, I think, transcended that somehow in terms of the apartheid regime. And they used to play some movies and programs around it. And it intrigued me that there was actually in Africa that was so advanced in terms of a lot of aspects, in terms of just architecture, in terms of mathematics, in terms of medicine, and a number of other things, you know. And I then began to think, okay, one of the things that I really wanted to do was to go and actually start digging up. I don't know, I just had this fascination that I really just wanted to go and be part of the process of really beginning to find the sacred treasures of Africa, and to find them particularly to instill that sense of confidence that the previous regime and apartheid tried to erode from us as Africans as a whole. To instill in us that we were less worthy, to instill in us that we were that we did not have the capacity to think and to make decisions by ourselves. And I just wanted to begin to interrogate that narrative that was being perpetuated.
One thing that seems to be prevalent within African culture that seems to almost unify the continent is the presence of a matrilineal system. Under a matrilineal system in most African societies, inheritance rights and kinship allegiance pass via the mother. In essence, in most African societies, you were royalty because of who your mother's family was. We see this matrilineal system demonstrated very early on in Egyptian mythology and culture and religion. The matriarchal system was a social manifestation of planetary laws. Isis represented the sun and Osiris, the moon. The light of the moon is a reflection of the light of the sun. And it is through this concept that women in Egypt exhibited numerous forms of freedom and control, like being the owners of property and being able to pass down wealth.
Now, once again, going back to what I initially said, organic growth. I have never seen myself, I've never dreamt to envisage the fact that I would be acknowledged as someone of potential global influence. I never even thought that I would influence beyond my township. Yeah. So it is evident that organic growth has now positioned me on a global platform. So that's Yoxus. Now what that entails and what that means is just a day-to-day discovery. What I do know is that I want to begin to accelerate the engagements between women to women businesses.
Have you ever received an invitation? World Economic Forum? Davos?
We tried.
Okay. So that already says it all. Yeah? Now, what we also want to do is we want to ensure that our members, who are trade councils, business associations, and chambers, are capacitated, are adequately funded to ensure that they actually fulfill their mandate in growing and harnessing the power of SMMEs at grassroots level.
To form a sisterhood of global business exchange and business growth amongst women in business. And interestingly enough, I'm not a business person. I've run many businesses and failed. And I've realized that I'm not an entrepreneur. But what I have learned is that I'm business-minded. And going back to what I'd initially said, I can use that to support and grow other business women who see themselves as entrepreneurs and who I have a great respect for, and to continue supporting them.
What an incredible, amazing, trailblazing woman that you are. I personally look up to you, so I'm glad that somebody saw, your leadership, trailblazing leadership journey, and saw it fit to nominate you for these awards. So what an honor to have you as one of the inaugural finalists for the Southern African Women in Leadership Trailblazers Awards. Congratulations. How do you feel?
I'm completely and utterly overwhelmed because when you do certain things, you do it just because it really feeds your soul, and it ensures that you fulfill your purpose in life, and you don't really expect any form of recognition. So for me, I am completely and utterly overwhelmed that I have even been considered for such a prestigious award.
One of the initiatives that is very close to my heart is the issues around GBV, and reason being that one, I'm a victim of gender-based violence. My mother wasn't that fortunate because she was shot by her fiance and then he shot himself. And my uncle was necklaced by his own students during apartheid. And persons just been witness to many such instances, both directly or indirectly. So my personal project at the moment is utilizing ICT for social change. So I'm in the process of launching an initiative called Help Me, which basically is an initiative that creates a platform for both people who are in a compromised position and people who are able to assist, whether it's law enforcement or localized NGOs, to meet on a live platform. And the development thereof will extend to where there would be a panic button that will be attached to the mobile phone, which will then be able to alert private security companies to be able to come and assist the person who is compromised.
Welcome to Simply Safe.
The panic button is there for you in case of an emergency. It enables you to instantly trigger your siren and simultaneously alert our monitoring center to dispatch police immediately. Or you can customize it to dispatch emergency medical services. The silent panic option signals our monitoring center without alerting an intruder, which makes it perfect for any business. Hopefully, you never need to use our panic button, but it's certainly great to know it's there if you do.
Simply Safe on.
I've been humbled and honored to be part of the action committee around WECONA, which is the Women's Economic Assembly, an initiative that is spearheaded by President Ramaphosa in actioning his commitment to ensure that 40% of all government procurement is ring-fenced for women-owned businesses, that we are in the process of beginning to inform a deliberate action plan that will ensure that we achieve the aspirations set out by our president. So those are some of the things that I'm working on.